Welcome back, everyone, to Gentleman MTG. With Modern Horizons around the corner, I would like to take some time to talk about some cards from the set. Today, we're going to be talking about uncommons and commons only. I know the rares and the mythics from this set are just off the wall powerful. The reprints, amazing. Imperial Recruiter, Fetch lands, just some of the reprints that are just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Then you have some of the newer cards like Ristic Study for a white creature. You have the Jund Noble Hierarch, as well as a 5-color legendary that makes you a Black Lotus every other turn. Super good. Very powerful. Now, I wanted to talk about some of the commons and uncommons because I think that a lot of people don't really talk about them unless they're talking about in the context of Pauper. Now, these are very powerful cards. Some of these are extremely powerful. Some of these cards are better than some of the rares from some of the standard sets. So, I'm just going to jump in the list. And this is a top 8 list. There's no particular order. These are just cards I really enjoy. And I think these are cards that are going to make a pretty good splash in the format. Starting off at number 8, we have the Timeless Witness. Timeless Witness is Eternal Witness for 4 mana. Sure, sounds fine. But it also has Eternalize. So for 5 and 2 green, you can exile it from the graveyard. You make a 4/4 body, black zombie creature token that does the same thing. Now, the reason why it's on my list here is not just because of, it's an Eternal Witness. That Eternalize, I think, is pretty solid for token decks in particular. Doubling Season, Parallel Lives, even the new twins that just came out in the Strixhaven Commander Precons, being able to get additional copies of those tokens, super powerful. I think that the card is a really good one. It's a solid addition to certain decks. Now for number 7 is Cabal Initiate. Now, discard outlets are really good. If you have cards in your hand that you want put in your graveyard, having a way to discard those cards at instant speed is always very good. Now, it's even better when it's free. And it's on a cheap body. It's a 2 mana. It's a 1 and a black creature. That gets bigger. Becomes a 3/3 when you hit threshold. But it's still a free discard outlet. So, definitely a good card. It's going to see a lot of play in a lot of black decks. They're going to want to discard their cards, get them out of their hands. Especially Gitrog. Sorry, I had a cough there. Just, frog got my tongue. Now, number 6 is going to be like one of the first white cards on the list, which is Blossoming Calm. Teferi's protection is super strong and super relevant in our format. Now, is this as strong as Teferi's protection? No. But it can act as a budget Teferi's protection or a decent second copy if you already have a copy of it. The fact that it's a 1 mana instant gives you hexproof, so it can stop any kind of targeting spell. Anything that says target player does this, that's pretty good. It's not going to stop board sweepers effects that hit all players, all opponents, like Teferi's protection, but it's going to stop someone from doming you with a giant X spell to try to win. Incremental life gain for 2 life, pretty decent, but altogether not that important. It's more of the rebound effect on it as well. So the fact that it comes back the following turn to do it again for free, pretty solid 1 mana investment. All right. Now, coming in number 5 is going to be Lose Focus. Counterspells, I think, are always super important for our format. They help you either win the game or stop yourself from losing. Now, I know a lot of people don't like counterspells because they don't like their spells being countered. It makes you feel bad. I understand that. But having a cheap counterspell that can just straight up counter something early game or late game and copy itself over and over and over again for just 1 blue mana is always going to be super powerful. always gonna be super relevant, and it just kind of scales up as the game goes by. Unlike most counter spells like Mana Leak that do this, where pay counter target spell unless they pay 3 mana. This is counter target spell unless they pay 2, but then later in the game, more mana you have, more you're able to copy it. Make additional copies, make them for every 1 blue mana you pay, they have to pay another 2 mana. So that's really good. It's really strong, and I think it's definitely worth a good look into if you're playing control decks. If you just want a cheap counter spell, it helps you out. Now we're coming to the top 4. Number 4 is going to be Graceful Restoration. Graceful Restoration, 5 mana reanimate spell. Any kind of reanimate spells are typically either really strong or really weak. This one I think is a good midpoint. Here's why. Has 2 modes. First mode, bring any creature back from the graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on it. That's good. Bring that Elvish Norn back. Make her bigger. Why not? Bring a Sheoldred back. Why not? Bring your Archangel Avacyn back. So any kind of like big creatures you want to bring back and you're in the Orzhov colors, super good. 5 mana, can't go wrong. It's not too fast, not too slow though. It's the second mode. It's the fact that you can bring back 2 creatures with power 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield is really good. It's a combo enabler. You can bring back it's like Noble Hierarch, not Noble Hierarchs. There's a lot of cards you can bring back. The Alicia decks, they're stock full of 2 power creatures because that's what she does, and she mostly combos out. So now you have another version of Alicia that can grab 2 creatures instead of just 1 and doesn't have to have her attack. Just saying, reanimate spell's always been known to be pretty powerful. Maybe 5 mana, but being able to just cast 1 spell and bring a combo onto the board is pretty powerful. So I think a lot of Orzhov decks, a lot of Esper decks are definitely going to like this card and run a lot of this card. Alright. Number 3 through 1, probably some of my more favorite cards, and I'm going to explain why. We got number 3 here is Dragon's Rage Channeler. It's a 1 mana creature for 1 red. It's a 1/1. Has Delirium, but the kicker is that every time you cast a non-creature spell, you get to surveil 1. That is extremely powerful. So you think about all the Storm decks out there, all the Spells Matter decks, all the decks that like want to turn through their library in 1 turn. And if you're that player and you're going through the motions, but then suddenly you hit that pocket of land, or you hit a couple of lands that you didn't need to hit when you cast your draw spell, this helps kind of fix that. So this allows you to sit there and cast your draw spell, surveil 1, put it in the graveyard if it's land you don't need, draw your card. Hopefully that draws you some more gas, lets you kind of keep going, fills your graveyard up. Most of the decks that play those, stormy, non-creature spell matters decks, they like to play out the graveyard too. So that fills your graveyard, smooths your draws, all for 1 mana. Plus it scales a little bit as it goes on. When you get that Delirium, you get a bigger body, which I don't think it's going to matter too much. I think it's mostly going to matter the fact that it's just a creature that's going to smooth out those draws for you. In red, I mean, it's good. Now number 2, I like to sacrifice creatures. One of my favorite decks is Corvold, the Faithful Cursed King. So number 2 may make it into that deck. May not though. But I still think it's a very powerful card. That is Legion's Vanguard. Now, sacrifice outlets are always a good thing. Any kind of deck that wants to sacrifice a thing to do anything is super solid. Yes, you do have to pay a mana to sacrifice the creature, but the fact that you get to explore when you sacrifice that creature is what I think puts this card a little bit over the top. And the fact that you get to not only smooth out your draws in black, you get to fill your graveyard with cards that you want to put in your graveyard, as well as it gets bigger. It gets the counters whenever it hits the non-creature spells, or the non-lands. you get the counter. Then you choose if you want to keep it on top and put it in the yard. So it's constantly getting bigger. And the fact that it's an instant speed ability, so you just pay 1 mana, sacrifice a token, look at the top card, decide if you want to keep it or not. But it's just pretty good to be able to have that ability in black to smooth out your draws. So even the mono black decks will use this. Golgari decks are going to use this. Corvold decks, you're probably going to see it in Corvold a lot. Not even going to lie to you. Now, before I get to my number 1 pick, I do want to talk about a little honorable mention. I'm going to mess up the pronunciation. I've tried to pronounce it like 10 times. I can't get it. I don't know why. My honorable mention is Goblin Anarchymancer. Yeah, let's just go with that. Which is a red-green Goblin Electromancer, but it only counts for the green and the red spells, which is good. Anytime you're able to kind of reduce the casting cost of any spells you cast, allows you to cast more spells in a turn, allows you to play a little more mana efficiently, maybe play an additional spell that you weren't originally able to cast because you have that mana reduction. So that always kind of helps keep up the pace, especially if you're playing in like a more aggressive deck. If you're able to get 2 haster creatures down, or just like a haste creature and a removal spell, just to help kind of close up that gap. Still super solid. I like it a lot. I think it's very narrow just because it's kind of stuck in that Gruul range. And that though, I think it's still a pretty solid card. I think it's definitely worth checking it out if you're going to be playing Gruul and you just want a way to play more spells in a turn. Now my number 1 pick. Of course I picked this one for number 1. It's going to be the Tireless Provisioner. Tireless Tracker is already extremely good. But now we get another version of it at an uncommon that gives you 2 choices. And choices in this game are so good. So the fact that you get either a food or a treasure whenever a land enters the battlefield. So the landfall is extremely powerful. A lot of people have akin it to the 3 mana Lotus Cobra. It's good. It's as strong as a Lotus Cobra, but I mean, you're making tokens. So there's a lot of decks out there that like to manipulate their tokens. They like to play around with tokens. So not only are you early game ramping because you're getting a treasure every time you play your land. So you got to think of it, every land drop you make now is a treasure token. So every land drop you make is 2 lands, basically. And then, which accelerates you. Acceleration is one of the best things you can do in Magic. You have more mana, you can play more spells. Now, it not only accelerates you, but it also has the food tokens, which gain you life. So early game, you accelerate. Late game, gain life, to kind of balance it out. Because when you're accelerating so much, you're going to be a target on the table. Everyone's going to come after you. You need that life buffer. So I like to joke around, and I like to think of this as like the repeatable, like half rev, like not Sphinx's Revelation, but kind of half of the Sphinx Revelation, because you're accelerating your land drops or your mana, and you're gaining life to be able to use that mana. So kind of like how Sphinx Revelation was, I drew a bunch of cards and I gained a bunch of life, so now I can play those cards. In a way, it's kind of the same thing. I made a bunch of mana, now I gain a bunch of life, so I can use that mana. But that's just my top 8 list, plus my honorable mention. I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think? What cards are you excited for? What events are you guys going to? Who's going to a pre-release? Let me know in the comment section. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, share, and I hope you guys all have a good one and play more games.